Welcome to the rest of my life. I'm Lance Ash, heading to work with a trunk full of books to donate to my coworkers. Called in sick last night, so I had a 3-day weekend. That's right, called in sick because I had a belly full of the bullshit. So, but in my mind it was justified because I got a painting done last night. Last week, I guess it would have been, it was last Monday night, so a week ago, had a little confrontation with somebody at work. And I don't want to have any suggestions of racism dumped on me, but there's a little trick that some American black men especially do that I think is sort of a passive-aggressive technique. I guess they've been taught it in school, whereby if there's a confrontation, they will go, "Excuse me, sir? Don't talk to me, sir. You don't point your finger at me, sir. Don't yell at me, sir. Excuse me?" And when you try to interrupt and say, "Well, I wasn't yelling," they interrupt you and say, "Excuse me?" So I had this confrontation with the guy. He doesn't normally work in my operation. He's a new guy. And I was making my circuit around the setup, around the operation, checking everything out. Because I'm in charge I'm responsible. Okay? So I find something that's been done wrong, and I try to get everybody's attention, tell them this is wrong. He did not like that. He did not like he said I was yelling. Well, not in my book. I wasn't yelling. The reason I brought up the whole thing about don't want to be accused of racism is because it was a confrontation with a black person, but it wasn't because he was black, and it wasn't because I'm white, mostly. It's just that sometimes people naturally jump to that conclusion. But it's just that during the conversation and right afterwards, I was like, that's a recurring aspect that I've noticed. The whole calling you sir and not letting you speak, and with the whole excuse me and don't point your finger at me and don't yell at me. Well, the guy had his headphones on. We're not supposed to do that in the building, by the way. Not supposed to have cell phones on in the building. Of course, that rule is never enforced. So I'm trying to get his attention because he doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. He turns around and immediately starts barking at me. So anyway, I called the supervisor over so he could witness this whole exchange. And just in case I was in the wrong, I said, "Well, look, I apologize." And he interrupted me and said, "Excuse me, I don't need your apology. You don't talk to me ever again." Okay. Fine with me. The thing is, I was actually more angry at the supervisor because there's a recurring lack of oversight on the part of the supervisors. Because he should have told a new guy, this has to be done this way. But of course, they don't care about that. The building is, God, I don't know how many people work there. 1,000. I mean, at least 1,000 people work in that building. And of that 1,000 or so, it's I'm 90% black people. I would say there's probably more. I don't know about. I was going to say there's probably more Asian people than there are white, but it's probably pretty close. And I've never been accused of any kind of racial problems. Well, a couple years ago, we had a fire drill type thing. It was the middle of the night. We all had to go out in the back parking lot, and we all had to go out there and wait until they had cleared the building, secured the building, made sure nobody's in there, and then did a head count before we could go back in. And I found a place to sit down out in the parking lot. And I looked around and I noticed groups of people talking with each other. And I looked through these various groups of people, and then I noticed that there was a group, all the white guys that I could see were all grouped together. Even though they don't normally work together, they had found each other in this situation. And they were talking to each other. And I noticed that I wasn't with them. I was alone. And I realized that my fundamental posture on social interaction is to be the loner. I don't seek out other men or other supposedly white people. I just rather be alone. And I wonder if those guys were like, finally, an opportunity to interact with other white men. Very odd. Anyway, but the thing about that whole confrontation with the guy was, what I was wondering the most is that sort of, I don't know if passive aggressive is the right term for it, but I just wonder if that's a technique that they're taught by older people who had developed these techniques 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, as a means of dealing with, at the time, authority, or I don't know. But it's just something I've encountered many times. Well, that unpleasant subject aside, I'm glad I called in, even though it'll cause difficulties for me tonight when I get there. But I'm glad I called in because I got this painting out of the way. I think I did a good job on it. It's posted on my blog right now, if anybody cares to see it. The blog is lanceash.blogspot.com, and the name of the painting is Triceratops Skull Shoes. There's a woman that works at that building that I occasionally work with. She works in another operation, but sometimes when we need help, they'll send her over to my area. And this is 2 weeks ago, I think. I got the one. I thought, has she ever seen my artwork? So I said, look, are you interested in seeing my paintings and stuff? Oh yeah. So I gave her the address, the web address for the site, and I haven't heard back. I'm just wondering. I don't know. I'm wary of asking her flat out, well, what did you think of the paintings? I'd rather just sort of just start talking to her and then see if it pops up. Very, very few people that I've given the address to have ever gotten back to me and said, oh, I actually went there and looked at the work and here's what I think of it. It's depressing to be in this, to be living in this era of human history. I mean, I really, it's a foolish mind game to play of saying, well, if I had it to do over again, but of course, number one, you don't have it to do over again, and number two, this is the way things unfold. There's no way you could have done anything any differently. But let us just say, what if I had the courage to leave home and go to a big city? Would I have made inroads into the art world and have some measure of an actual I don't know, a name? I don't know if it would have happened, because at the time that option was available, I mean, as much as it might have been, I had no interest. I had no thought of becoming a painter, cartoonist. My dream was to become a rock star, or at the very least a novelist. And so I don't know. The rock star thing, now that I know what I know, probably never would have happened. I mean, I use the word rock star loosely. I mean, professional musician. I don't like working with other people unless I am the boss. And the whole idea of I mean, I'll tell you, there's a band called Lightning Bolt. It's just two guys, and it's just the most abstract noise rock, progressive noise rock, and it's just brutal. And that, if I could do something, if I could snap my fingers and have a quote-unquote band, it would be something like that. Something like that, or maybe like something like one of Alex Dunham's various projects. But at the time, I don't know. I'm talking about 30 years ago, 35. Hell, I don't know. Just don't know. Everything turned out for the best, I think. As best as I could have hoped for. Sad fact of life, finding out that you're limited by time. Can't do everything you wanted to do. Can't experience everything you wanted to experience, or that you could possibly experience. Last night while I was painting, I thought, you really need to write down a reminder to set aside some time, once a week or once a day maybe, to look at artwork. The only museum nearby is the Georgia Museum of Art, which is on the University of Georgia campus. And number one, they've started off these crazy rules about parking, and so it's hard to get in and out of there now. But number two, it's crap for the most part. I don't know how many pieces of art they have hidden away in the basement, but 85% of what they have on show is the same stuff they always have on show, on display. Rotate stuff in and out. Make arrangements for traveling exhibitions to come in. And I mean exhibitions of paintings, not exhibitions of quilts or homemade pioneer furniture. It's the same thing with the High Museum, which is the big museum in Atlanta. It's the same shit all the time. Every time you go, only one of the floors ever changes. And one of the floors is set aside for furniture or silverware. Wish I had the opportunity to go to New York, see some of the great museums and galleries up there. Played the lottery, played two different drawings. I don't know. So pathetic. Pathetic in the literal sense of the term, meaning sad, inducing sadness. Jesus. Finally got around to starting to write the next instrumental. I wish I could just drop the whole guitar thing. But I've been playing for 35 years. I can't just drop it and let all those hard-won skills fade away. I can't do it. It's hard enough coming up with 10 minutes a day to make the most rudimentary pass at practicing. I ate a bunch of crap this weekend, candy and peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm still vain enough to think that if I stay in shape, people will go, "Oh, what a good-looking man he is." I'm getting these, for years now, I've been getting these bags under my eyes. Have the appearance of having your eyes sunken into your skull. My mother and her side of the family had that. Oh my God. Now I gotta head up here to this fucking job and deal with, it'll take me on average an hour and a half The first hour and a half that I'm there, it's running around like a madman, trying to fix all the problems that people who've been there all day have created. And plus, the woman who is nominally in charge will probably stick her nose in and stir up the hornet's nest. The people who actually supervise while she's off running around the building elsewhere don't give a flying shit. As long as Lance takes care of everything behind our back, we don't care. Most of the people that I had any kind of friendly relationship with are gone now. And the people that I think that I would like to have some sort of friendly relationship with don't have any interest in pursuing that. Everybody's got their own problems. Oh my God. Like a fool, my wife. I told my wife we ought to start watching the original Inspector Morse episodes now that we finished up Endeavor. More wasting of time. So I guess that's a good note to end this on. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.